This is a CBS News special report. I'm Gail King with John Dickerson and Bianna Golodriga here in New York. We, of course, are talking about Hurricane Florence. She's making landfall right now in North Carolina, bringing a life-threatening storm surge, powerful winds, and heavy rain that experts say could last for days. At least 175,000 homes and businesses have lost power at this hour. Florence has pounded the coast all night long with top sustained winds of 90 miles an hour. But some areas farther inland have been hit the hardest.
Rising water has flooded much of the city of New Bern, North Carolina, where the News River has risen up to 10 feet. More than 200 people have been rescued so far.
We'll go to New Bern in just a moment, but we want to begin our coverage with CBS Evening News anchor Jeff Glor. He's on the coast in Wilmington, North Carolina, only a few miles from the eyewall of this massive hurricane. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning, Bianna, and it has gotten very bad here in just the past few hours. The rain is at the point where it is coming in sideways. It stings. You certainly have to watch out for projectiles if you're nearby. We're in a relatively safe space that is clear for now, but it got bad past midnight. Conditions have just worsened since then. As you mentioned, the eyewall very close to us. One of the big concerns here with Florence is just how slow she is moving and how much rain this hurricane is going to dump. It's talking about moving at 5 miles an hour still, and landfall here in Wilmington or nearby is imminent, but at this point there are bigger issues that we're looking at right now, and we're going to check in with Adriana Diaz, who's in Jacksonville, who has more on the situation in New Bern. Adriana?
That's right. The situation in New Bern is dire. There are 200 people who've been rescued, but at least 100 to 150 more in need of rescue. People are reporting that they can't get through on 911, so they are putting their calls for help on social media, and officials are actually using social media to try to tell people what to do. They are tweeting, move upstairs, move to your attic, and they wrote in capital letters, we are coming to get you. So there is extreme urgency right now in New Bern. Storm surge has topped 10 feet there. We are in Jacksonville, just about 40 miles from there, and here the wind gusts are at about 80 miles per hour. And overnight, I spoke to the public information officer for the city. He said overnight they reached 100 miles per hour, and that there was a hotel here in Jacksonville where the roof started to come off. There was a report of a small hole in that hotel, and that the cinder blocks were starting to crumble. There were 70 people in that hotel. Those people, including an infant, have been rescued. Jeff?
All right, Adriana, thank you very much. The Cape Fear River is behind us, and it is raging right now as Florence continues to move in and bring her worst to the Carolinas. John, let's head back to you in studio.
The mayor of New Bern, Dana Outlaw, joins us now by phone. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Give us an update on the latest.
Well, the latest is that it's starting to get light enough that we can get out and start assessing the damages. There's quite a few limbs, trees down. The soil around here is so saturated from the inundation of 10.5 feet of water and the 20 inches of rain, which could be up to 30 to 40 inches. You know, this is just going to make the soil conditions such that we'll probably have more trees down. We have 22,000 customers out of power, so we are working hard to get the remaining citizens that did not evacuate earlier. We're trying to get them out of harm's way.
What about those citizens, Mr. Mayor? I've heard a number of people have been trapped in their cars.
Yeah, well, they're trapped in their houses, they're trapped in cars, and our first responders are doing everything we can to rescue them and to get them to the shelters.
Mr. Mayor, what is your message to the residents of your city watching this unfold right now?
Well, there's enough devastation that we have started a 24-hour curfew. It's very dangerous to be out right now. If we can restore power, there could be lines still down that would be energized, and it's just extremely dangerous conditions. And we haven't seen a storm like this probably since Hurricane Hazel in the 50s, and we just stress stay home. If, you know, it's still not a bad idea just to get in the car if you can and head west of I-95.
So, Mr. Mayor, you're still advising people to try to get out now if you can?
Well, I can't tell you what's going to happen the way this thing is stalled. We've seen this with past hurricanes that we've actually had one that came in, went back out, and came back in. So, we don't know what we're dealing with here other than this storm is twice the size of Hurricane Hugo several years ago. So, this is a very, very serious time for eastern North Carolina.
What's the biggest...
And we just want...
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
We just want our citizens safe, and we want them secure. And we're doing everything we can with our fire and police department and our staff to ensure that our citizens are safe.
We keep hearing about significant storm surge. What can you tell us about that in your town?
It was 10.5 feet, and we thought 7 feet a couple of years ago with Irene was a lot of water. The difference, not only the height, but Irene was in and out within a half hour. And this one is, it's just been around for a while. And again, it makes the conditions such that if you've got water in your home, you need to turn that power off, and you need to get an electrician to check that system out. We've had 3 fires since this hurricane started. Now, I can't tell you what was the cause of them, but I can tell you that if water got into the house and in any way compromised the electrical outlets, you do not need to turn the power back on until an electrician comes by and checks the house for you.
You mentioned the power outages there. How prepared are you and confident in backup generators at some of your emergency facilities, like hospitals?
Oh, that's pretty good. We actually have 6 crews that are coming in from electric cities and also as far away as Missouri to help us with when the wind subsides so that we can get our crews in and get these power lines corrected.
Have there been any reports of fatalities in your town, Mr. Mayor?
I do not have any at this time. I certainly hope and pray that there weren't any.
Of course we all do.
But I have not heard. I've heard some rumors, and our water system is fine. We have actually, I'm standing in the water plant as we speak in our emergency operations center, and we have had a little bit of problems with some sewer in some low areas. But all of our services are working, other than the electrical. And
we keep hearing reports, Mr. Mayor, of 150 people that still need to be rescued.
Yes,
what's the game plan for that? How are the first responders handling that?
Well, if we can as safely as we can get to these residents, we're getting to them. We're going to get all of them. We've already rescued about 200. We have about 150 more to go.
And who are these residents, Mr. Mayor? Did they just think they could wait it out? Did they think they could get in their car and escape it? What categorizes those 150?
Well, New Bern's just not used to this level of a hurricane. And there's so many in the past. We've had them, they would come in and turn right around and go back out. So, you get a little bit complacent sometimes and don't think these things can happen. I'll be frank, I didn't, I knew the model, the Euro model, and everything else says it was going to happen. I was very concerned about the Category 4 wind we didn't get, but we sure got the water instead.
Yeah, the storm surge and the flooding. This is a slow-moving storm, not something that you need to be hearing right now. Mr. Mayor, we know that you've got a busy day ahead of you. We thank you for your time, and we're thinking of you and your residents. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's Mayor Dana Outlaw in New Bern.
Lieutenant David Daniels with the New Bern Police Department joins us now by phone. Lieutenant Daniels, we just heard your mayor describe the conditions there. What can you add to that?
Nothing. The mayor did a great job in explaining it. We're working just as hard as we can to get to everybody that's trapped in their homes, working diligently. We have multiple teams here and doing the best we can with the conditions that we have.
One thing we heard our reporters say that 911 calls are not going through at this time. So what is the best way for people to get in touch, to reach out for help? She had mentioned a lot of people are using social media.
Sure, and that's not actually accurate. 911 is working. People can call 911. They are being answered. A lot of folks are using social media, and we're responding as quickly as we can with that. But the best way is to call 911, and that system is up and working.
Lieutenant, are there any reports of injuries?
No reports of injuries at this time, and we're hoping we can keep it that way.
And Lieutenant Daniels, can you help me figure out if I'm in a home right now and I see the water level rising, should I get in a car or should I go upstairs? What's your advice?
Well, if they're able to get out and do so safely, we would certainly suggest that. If they're not able to get out of the house, we recommend that they move to the highest point. If they go up to the second floor, that's great. I would not recommend driving in the standing water. That could be dangerous.
And to reiterate, Lieutenant, 911 is operating, so folks in town that need help can call 911 and can be assured that they will be getting a response.
That is correct.
All right. Lieutenant David Daniels, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, we want to go back to Jeff Glore in Wilmington, North Carolina, to check on conditions in some other areas. Jeff.
Yeah, conditions not good, Bianna, here in Wilmington as the eyewall approaches and the storm makes landfall expectedly here just in the next few hours. One of the big issues we've been talking about here is storm surge and how bad it could be in places in North Carolina. We're going to check in with David Begno now, who's in Beaufort and seeing some of the worst storm surge. David?
Jeff, so far the storm surge has been up to 7 feet within the last 12 to 14 hours. Where we are right now, winds have been gusting upwards of 90 miles per hour. Beaufort is a small community, between 13 and 14,000 people that live here. They are under mandatory evacuation. There is a dusk to dawn curfew, but I don't know who the heck would be running down the street right now if there wasn't a curfew. It's a ghost town, and it's a dark town. Power is out. Listen, we're at a condominium complex. We've been staying about 100 feet off the ground. Not a little sleep overnight, so we're in a safe location. I assure you of that as soon as you can't be in order to continue reporting. And I got to tell you that this complex has been vibrating throughout the night as the wind rushes by the building. It has been constant. There's really been no lull as we continue to watch some of those ferocious winds from Florence down this east coast of the United States. John, back to you.
All right, David Begno, thank you very much. In Beaufort, where again surge is the big concern. Apologies, could not hear a lot of that as we're going to be dealing with technical issues in the hours ahead as the wind and the rain really pick up here. Let's check in with Megan Glaros to get the latest on the track. And Megan, this is still just moving so slowly, right?
Yeah, listen, we are in the eye wall, Jeff, right now, which essentially means here in Wilmington, we've been driving around. The rain is coming in sideways, as you clearly know from standing out there right now. The trees are being buffeted every which way, and what we're dealing with right now is some of the worst that we're going to see here, but the problem is we expect it to continue. It's not over yet. If we look at this radar picture right here, from a good chunk of the Carolina coastline right here, we are actually in the worst of it. You can see where the reds and the oranges are located right now. That's what's called the eye wall. It's kind of moving the car around a little bit if you being buffeted back and forth. Right here, where you actually see a little bit of blue, that's the center of circulation, or the eye. So when that goes over our area, it will actually calm down for a little bit, but let it not lull you into a false sense of security, because there's a backside to this eye wall as well, and that will eventually come through too. So at the moment, we're getting hurricane force gusts, clearly sustained winds, well into the 60s, 70s. It's coming and going. It's hard to say exactly what we're getting right now, right here, but I can assure you we've got trees down all over the street here. There are still some cars out and about, but essentially what we're seeing is the worst of it. My concern is how long it's been raining and how long we expect it to continue raining. We have got hours of this left. In fact, the track is going to take it so slowly through North and South Carolina that the potential for us to see these kind of winds and rain for at least 24 to 48 hours, possibly 72 hours in terms of the rain, is there. Right now, it's a Category 1 storm, wind sustained to 90 miles an hour. It's moving west at 6 6 miles an hour. That's it. It's going to take forever for it to get through here, and it is expected to eventually make its way inland. That be picked up by the regular weather patterns and kind of moved out as just a rainmaker for the Northeast. But at the moment, we are concerned that at 2 a.m. Saturday morning, it is still right there. Do you see where I'm pointing? That's still South Carolina, North Carolina border, and that's almost 24 hours from now. Expecting it to continue progressing on off to the west and not likely down to tropical storm status and sometime Saturday afternoon. So what we're in right now is what we're going to find for a long chunk of time here. And we do expect potentially to see these kind of conditions here. And then what you've got is you've got trees that are now in saturated ground. You've got trees in this area of the country with shallow root systems. We're not talking about a ton of palm trees like you would find in South Florida or somewhere in the Caribbean. We're talking about shallow rooted trees. And essentially what that's going to mean is that's going to go down very easily. And the longer we have these winds, the longer we have these rains, the more likely that kind of activity is to happen. But the rain is the concern. Freshwater flooding is a major concern of ours as well, because all this rain's going to come down. What happens is, even if it's raining farther west, it has to flush out down these rivers and empty into the Atlantic. So right now we've got the storm surge, we've got the heavy rain. Eventually what we're going to find essentially is all that water coming back down, emptying out into the Atlantic. We have got days left of weather just like this.
Megan, thank you. We just lost power at our location. We joined 300,000 other North Carolinians in not having power. Those numbers are expected to rise dramatically over the coming hours. We saw the power flicker on and off for good chunks of the night here as the worst of Florence come in. And by the way, the worst is here, and we expect more of this for quite a while. Unfortunately, when it comes to potential flooding risks. Guys, let's head back to you in studio.
All right, Jeff. Well, we'll stay safe, and we will come out back to you later on this morning. And it's important to reiterate to our viewers that though this is a slow-moving storm, the winds are still extremely high, 90-mile-per-hour winds. One of the reasons we couldn't even hear David Begnaud so clearly. So It's important for people to heed that warning, too.
And it changes so quickly, because at the beginning, David Begnaud's live shot, we could at least understand, and by the time it was over, you couldn't. You know, it looks like a Saturday Night Live skit, but it's not. This is a real deal, and it's very, very scary.
And it's here to stay for hours, if not days ahead. For live updates on Hurricane Florence, on the go, download the CBS News app or visit cbsnews.com/Florence.
We'll have complete coverage of Hurricane Florence, excuse me, on CBS this morning starting at 7 o'clock. And for many of you, in a special expanded edition of the broadcast, coverage will continue throughout the day on your local news, on this CBS station, and on our 24-hour streaming network, that's CBSN.
This has been a CBS News special report. I'm John Dickerson with Gail King and Bianna Goladriga, CBS News, New York.
For news 24 hours a day, go to cbsnews.com.